baby gorgeouses. Hey, girl.
Welcome back. It's us in your ear holes once again, loving life. It's two girls and it's one pod. Booyah.
Oh, she just booyah'd ya. Oh, here we go.
We put out a little question box on our Instagram, which was just lovely because we had so many responses from people. We just said, ask us anything. If we were to do an episode on Gogglebox, what do you want to hear from us? So let's start with this one. Were you having as much fun as it looked like? More fun than it looked like. Like sometimes, I mean, we would drink most of the time. It's very rare that you get to drink doing what you do. At work. We had a crew, which is another question. So this can tie in, like, were there crew? One of the questions I think is, how many crew were there? So we can answer these two together. How many crew did we have?
There was like 6. There was cameraman, soundy, runner,
director.
transcriber, director.
5.
Is that all? Am I missing anything?
Yeah.
They were always so much fun.
Oh my God, they were like our family.
Yeah, and we could hear them laughing at things we would do and say.
That would egg us on.
Would
that'd get our juices flowing.
It was, and we would have fun with them between takes. We'd have fun with them before while they were setting up. They were really beautiful with all of our dogs, and we'd have fun with them afterwards. Like, they were just a great bunch of people, and they often were the same ones. They change irregularly through the seasons, but we'd always get our favourites, and our EP always knew who our favourites were and made sure that we would get them, which was fantastic. So we did have a lot of fun. Did they ever put anything in the show that you didn't want to be there? Very rarely. Very rarely. It was actually once. Once only, and we won't rehash it.
No, we've already rehashed it before, and I've already apologized so many times, and I was 27 and I learned from my mistakes, but it was shit. It was awful. Like, I lost sleep over it.
Yeah,
I was beside myself.
Yeah.
I cried. Right after it, I was going to South Africa to go to this camp, and I didn't want to go because I was like beside myself. Yeah. And then I apologized to the person, and at first he didn't want to accept my apology. And look, what I said was awful, but
we're not going to get into
things.
We're not going to get into it.
But in conclusion, it was pretty full. It was pretty sad one for me.
Mm. So another question was, what did you do when you hated a show / could you choose the shows? We couldn't ever choose the shows. The shows were always
we wish
a week's worth of TV that we had to watch over, in the beginning, 3 days, and then it went down to 2 days. So they were good 4 to 5 hour sittings where we would sit and watch. Another question we got was, do you have to watch the entire show, or did you only ever get snippets? And that changed, because if it was pre-recorded and production had that show they wanted us to watch, they would show us a condensed version of it, because it would be mostly what they wanted us to hit, like talk about, react to.
Yeah.
But if it was live, like the AFL Grand Final or the cricket, it was live and long and laborious. And no, we never got to choose, and we never got to say, can we not watch? There was only, I think, 2 times, Ange, did we walk out and said, we can't watch this. This is just shit. There was a magician show. I remember that because it was on this weekend while I was watching it. Everyone walked out on it.
Yeah, I think they pretty much said that we could.
Yes.
But other times you could sometimes, because we filmed so much, you could sometimes, and you knew that you weren't always going to be on, you could tune out. Like sometimes I'd sit on my phone, very rarely. You'd get in trouble sometimes. You'd be like, get off your phone.
Get off your phone.
Or they'd be like, come on, girls, we know you don't like it, but you have to kind of give us something. And we'd be like, no, we don't, we hate it. At the beginning, we were such people pleasers though. We would just be like, yeah, sure. And by the end, I mean, we did it for 4 years. It was a long time.
8 seasons.
By the end, it was just like, if we didn't want to watch something, or, just like everybody else, we had our own personal shit going on. So you can't always mask that, especially when you're in the comfort of your home. We would just be like, Nah. Or we'd have little fights with each other like sisters, but then we'd take it out on the shows we're watching.
Yes. And no one ever knew
and
that.
No one would know. She'd say something I disagree with,
Yeah.
and then she'd stir me up, and then I'd get the shits, or vice
Yeah.
versa, and then I'd be like, this show's shit.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't even think it. I was just so cross.
Yeah, no, and that's right. And there would be, I mean, sometimes we would watch an entire show and it would be great, or like I remember they had us watch the Gordon Ramsay Hotels from Hell or something, and we were all like so into it that we wanted to keep watching, and we all got cracked the shits like, let us keep watching this. They're like, nah, next week's episode we don't have it, so when you're not watching it, keep going, like, kind of thing. There was times when we watched shows on Gogglebox that we would never have watched, and it made us get into the shows, like behind the scenes. And there was sometimes we would get emails from production. They would say to us, please don't watch this show this week because we're airing it and we want to see your true reactions.
Yeah.
So that was really important, that we didn't know the results of The Bachelors and the Married at First Sights and things like that we didn't know what was coming up, Survivor evictees and stuff like that. So we had to adhere to that, and that was a really important thing, simply because even though it was on that week, we might be watching it the day after it had aired. They'd say, please don't watch it live. So there was that. And, the question, did you ever hate a show? Doctor Who, Doctor Who, Doctor Who. One question we've had a lot, as you can imagine, is why did we leave?
Gosh.
We didn't. We're still there. You just can't see that.
We're just really boring now.
Yeah, they just don't show us anymore.
They never show. We still get dressed every week. We still comment. We just don't have the camera on us anymore.
Yeah.
No, we actually left. We were there, like we said, for 4 years, 8 seasons. I was living between Sydney and London. I was only in my 20s, so I was like, I'd have to come back to London for film, and I was like having to pick up and restart my life. And when I'd come back, I would sometimes live out of my car. I would house sit. I would dog sit. I got really sick from that. I was very stressed because this is when I stopped living with Yvie by the end, because I was traveling so much and she had to get another housemate in. And it was a year where I was living out of my car off and on and getting these random house sits or staying on the couch and flying back to Queensland because my nanny, who was like my everything, got sick. She wasn't dying. She just had really bad mental health and a bad hip. So I was like, well, on my days off, she can't be alone because her mental health was so bad. Her depression came out. She couldn't be by herself. I was like, I'll live with her in Queensland and I'll fly back. That just got too hard. And we did ask Gogglebox and we told them the situation. Is there any way you can help me out? I don't have a lot of money so I can fly home and be with Nan. And there was just no extra budget, which is, it is what it is. And if you give us extra budget, you'd have to give all the other families. And
that's what we were told, that they couldn't have any special preferences for us. It just wasn't that kind of a show.
And then Nanny ended up passing away, and then that was kind of our sign then. Hey, we had a big chat. We were like, I was like, girl, I want to go home. I've been away from Queensland since I was 21. I moved to Sydney, and then what was I when she died? 28. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go home and look after my mum. She's has no support really, and just hang out for a while. So I don't think I want to come back.
And I had a new flatmate at the time. I actually had 2 flatmates, and
they
weren't that keen on the house being used as as location. And that time they didn't have anything in Queensland being filmed, so it wasn't an option to film up there.
Yeah.
And it kind of just came to a natural end for us. It was financial reasons, location reasons, change of life reasons, that it wasn't viable for us to continue. But saying that, had all of those things been different, we'd still be doing it.
Yeah, we loved it. We would have probably liked to have had a break just because I would have liked to travel more. Nothing against the show ever. I know that there was little talks about it in articles where we left quite bitter. Not at all. It was fully personal. And I've only ever said amazing things about the show.
Well, we loved our time on the show.
We loved it, and we loved the people.
Another question that we got is, would you ever go back? And it's really interesting because Adam and Simon have gone back, and that's really fascinating for us to watch that. Like they left the show, went on to I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, something we did as well. And they've gone back onto the show. And it has posed a question to us both. We've said to each other, would you do that again? Would we, obviously couldn't because we live in separate states still, but if we ever lived together,
But if we did,
if we lived in the same city again and they
I would do it.
asked us, it would be something I would absolutely, it would be such a lovely trip back and a novelty of, this was so much fun and what a trip to do it again. So yeah, absolutely. Never write it off. That's still to this day one of my favorite shows. It was one of my favorite shows then and it still is one of my favorite shows to watch.
Well, she's speechless and that never happens. Yeah, I reckon. Why not? I always used to say never rule it out. Life's for living. I love it. But it would be, I think it would be a bit hard because we have gone on and done so much and we do know a lot of the people quite personally that we do watch. But I think it could even bring something different, It's been the same for so long. Something for them to ponder. We'd never say never, but one of the things in it would be I would still want to be able to do my work now, which is in the industry. So I don't know if they would allow that. That's the only thing.
I've seen a lot of comments on the new episode, which is a celebrity Gogglebox, and people saying, why don't you have Angie and Yvie on that when they are celebrities now? And I actually think that would work better than going back to the original because it would be a different take because we wouldn't probably speak about people on TV the way we used to and that Goggleboxes still do. And I think that's what we're going to see with celebrity episode. We're going to see them not talking about personal things. But we haven't been offered anything, so don't.
No, oh my God. This is us just having a conversation. We haven't been
breaking
offered
news or anything.
shit. They probably don't even want us back, to be honest.
Yeah,
but we're just
exactly.
saying if we did, because it was a question and we were asked it, so we're just answering it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because I'm opposite to you. I think I'd want to go back with the Goggleboxes because to me, I don't see myself as like the people. I'm still Angie on the couch that has just had heaps of adventures. So I would still want to be with everybody. And I would feel weird if we were on the celebrity one because I just would feel weird.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just would.
Because you were on the pleb one.
Yeah.
Just one more thing. One thing that I've noticed watching our seasons. I want to know where I've put some of my clothes. It's like, I love that top.
Yeah, you always had such nice stuff. I'd wear like stockings with skirts and I would wear whatever I found on my floor-robe, to be honest.
Yeah,
I'd be like, and I'd smell it and I'd be like, hasn't got dog hair on and I'm putting this on for
And
today.
there's nothing wrong with it. I thought you all looked amazing. I can't believe the different looks we had. Like
We had lots of looks.
I went really short hair at times. I went really blonde. I went really dark. I was like brown. I was pale. I was fat. I was thin. I was it was all over the place. I, unlike you, have gotten to a place where I absolutely find myself fascinating. And no matter what I looked like, I mean, definitely had moments of, but really checked myself and went, that was who you were, and there is absolutely nothing not to be proud of about that.
I know.
You're a great person inside and out, and that was the way you looked right then. So own it. The new Sex and the City series.
And just like that, they're back. I am so excited. But the people of the internet, I've seen mixed reviews. I've seen people being really excited and then I've seen people being like, ew, they're so old now. Who wants to watch that?
Yeah, that's awful.
It's so bizarre. Like they're saying that people started commenting on the cast's age and posting memes of the Golden Girls. So we can go from being 30 and hot and single or Golden Girls. There's nothing in between for women.
Nothing in between. You have to be in a retirement home to be able to be on TV and relevant as a woman. And not that there's anything wrong with that because Golden Girls is a brilliant TV show, but that is not the only story for women. I saw an article about Sarah Jessica Parker in Vogue, and she was talking about how, people are having a go at her for having grey hair, letting her hair go grey, having too many wrinkles, not having enough wrinkles, and she says, like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to disappear? One of her best friends, Andy Cohen, Andy Cohen.
I love Andy Cohen. I didn't know they were best friends though.
Yeah, isn't that adorable?
That's just like friendship goals right there.
And it makes a lot of sense when you actually see it. You're like, oh, I can totally see that best friendship now.
Yeah, you kind of can, can't you? It makes so much sense.
But she talks about in the article about how he has a head full of grey hair and it's completely acceptable, never even been discussed. It's like it shouldn't really be praised or condemned.
Yeah.
It's like it's hair. That's what happens to hair.
But it's almost like you're damned if you do or you're damned if you don't. Like if you age gracefully, it's going to be spoken about. If you get too much work, or why don't you age gracefully? Like you cannot win.
You can't win. Well, yeah, that's the thing with a lot of people, especially on social media and then especially on places like Facebook. There's just such a toxic environment that it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to shit on you.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
But they're getting very loud, and it's really disheartening to think that, what's happening to humanity where we shit can someone for saying it's a nice day.
I think we're all just really angry at the moment, and we've had so much time to sit behind our keyboards and our phones and just go to town and not have to take any responsibility for our actions because you don't have to deal with people in person, so you think you can do whatever you want. I think we should not even talk about her aging. I think it'll just come down to whether or not the show is going to be good, and that's how we should judge it. Like when men get older, they get to be James Bond and hot and older and bang 20-year-old girls.
Yeah.
When she wants to come back and do Sex in the City, it's like, oh no, we're so used to women in their 50s being the mum of the radical teenagers or the drunk auntie that's so like had a past and never had kids, and she's the cool, fun, old drunk auntie. Like we're not used to having this, so I think or you're a desperate housewife or a real housewife.
You do a remake of a show and it's about the younger generation. You're all still there, but, Cynthia Nixon mentions that as well in the article, how, we haven't brought in a 21-year-old niece, which is really nice. The only problem that I had with when they announced the show, which I was naive enough to think that's what everyone would be having a problem with, was is it going to be as good as the series or is it going to be as bad as the last movie?
Yes, it's nothing to do with age. It was just a bad movie.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about the show because, this was like the soundtrack to my life, So seeing these women now in their 50s, and I'm about to be in my 50s, this is really exciting to see that they're living a life like I'm still living a life, and it's not gotten any worse because I've gotten older.
Yeah.
So I'm actually really excited to see how they're living and also to see how they're aging. I want to see women aging. There was an article also that made me think of this when I read that. Paulina Poroskova, who is a model, and she used to be married to the lead singer of a band called The Cars, and that was a really big band in the 70s and 80s. I absolutely loved all of their music. And he was really well known for being extremely unattractive and getting this really hot model, right? And they were married for a really long time. He only died like 2 years ago. And they were married and in love with each other. There was a whole thing like back in the 80s, Billy Joel, he got Christy Brinkley. All these rockers were getting these stunning looking models, and how men could do that. That wasn't the point I was trying to make. She's now in her 50s and she hasn't had any work done and she hasn't dyed her hair. You look at her, she's still stunning. She's a fucking model, for Christ's sake. You're going to age really, really well. But she said she went out for lunch with a photographer friend who said, your face is freaking me out, and she was like, why? What do you mean? And he said, you're furrowing your brow constantly. And she goes, I'm expressing myself.
Yeah.
I'm reacting to you. And he was like, Honestly, I have not seen someone's face move in his industry in over 10 years. I haven't seen anyone's face do that.
You don't.
And I'm like, oh, God, it got me thinking, like, because I use Botox, and I really say to my Botox lady, it's really important that I still give expression.
Yeah, I can move this part.
They call it sprinkling of the Botox.
Yeah.
And, so my head can still move around because, I think we need to not embrace the age, well, definitely embrace the aging, but be okay with whatever. You want to put Botox in, that's fine. You don't want to put Botox in, that's fine.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like for us too, being in the industry, I noticed, obviously I went from being like 24 to almost 32 is such a jump. And of course you're going to change, and it might not even be work. It's weight gain, it's medical stuff, it's whatever it is. But I remember sitting on the couch, I had no work at first. I had like my little, remember? Like no top lip. That's fine. Some people don't want a top lip. I wanted a top lip. I got it. And then it went from being like, people commented, she's not very pretty. And then you could get work and they're like, oh, she's had too much work. And it's just like, how about you just focus on what I'm saying? Maybe I'm not there to look good on the red couch. I was actually there to have a good time and laugh.
Yeah. But it's amazing how much we bought into it once we started seeing ourselves on TV.
Yeah.
How we started to want to change the way we look.
Yeah, because people are friggin' mean.
It's because people are so mean, and all of a sudden we started caring what people thought about the way we looked. And it's really heartbreaking, because there were two boys sitting on their couches and they never had to do anything about their looks, which they shouldn't have to. But, the point I'm making, that we're making, is that, you do succumb to changing your look in tiny ways, big ways. We do it all the time as women. We change our hair colour, we change our eyebrow shape, we change our lips, we change our boobs, we change our nails, we change the colour of our skin. Like, we do so many things as women that I think there's something in it that we need to start saying we're okay with who we are if that's who we want to be, and we need to start saying to each other, you're beautiful, you're perfect, just the way you are. You want to change a few things, fucking do it. Who gives a shit?
As long as you're doing it for you as well, I think. You can also attract the wrong people if you think that you want to look a certain way based off what society tells you to look. You're going to end up attracting other humans that are kind of in the same boat as you, wanting to change for others, and that's not healthy. Like, I often think, why would I do it? I do it now for me, but back in the day, I'd do it like bachelorette time. I did it for the boys.
Yeah.
Because I was told that I had to be this beautiful, untouchable woman that
doesn't exist.
20 dudes that what would want me. It's like, well, no 20 dudes in a room are ever going to want me. Like, what a dumb thing to put in someone, and all of Australia has to do it too. So I then did it, but then I was like, well, I'm going to attract people that I don't really like, because I don't like being 48 kilos and drinking too much and having to look like a doll all the time. I'm going to end up with Carlin. Oh, heavy. And look how swimmingly that turned out. I don't want to attract that shit. I want to look like this and attract a really nice human.
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more.
Well, look at that, for example. And no offense to him, I'm sure, he's a great partner to a Barbie doll, but not for this guy.
And there was a lot of expectation for you to look a certain way. I mean, not even you. He wouldn't even get an ugly dog.
I know. Oh, my God. He would not even get an ugly dog. I said I wanted a 3-legged dog, like a rescue, and he was like, what did he say again? I want an aesthetically pleasing dog. We are not getting a dog like that. We had a huge fight. And I was like, what if our children are going to be ugly? Are you going to not want to have them? Oh, another story.
Anyway, too soon?
Too soon. No, not really. I wish him all the best.
Not at all. No, it's good to be honest, isn't it?
Well, that's true. Like, when I looked like that, look what I attracted and thought I wanted for myself. And there's nothing wrong if you want that, but that's just not what I want. I don't want that. I was so unhappy.
Wouldn't it be lovely if we could have a bachelor or bachelorette like The Voice, like a blind?
Yeah.
I was watching Ellen the other day, and she was interviewing Michael from Love on the Spectrum.
I heard that.
Oh, my God. And he says, she said, would you like to do it? I know it's a joke, but would you do it? And he said, well, no, because I've heard that you're not allowed to be who you really want to be, and you can't be hairy and you have to be chiseled. And I'm not that.
I know. Bless him.
It was so adorable, and actually it fills your heart when you think, oh, that's kind of fucking bachelor I'd love to see.
Yeah, just normal humans. You're normal humans, but you're not expected to look like a doll or a Ken doll.
Yeah, and someone who's really themselves, that, the way he said you have to be, you're not allowed to act the way you want. Knowing, he knows, he's heard that producers say, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to say this, you got to say that. I mean, imagine if they just did let people be themselves. What a wonderful experiment that would be to watch that. Maybe that is the difference of where The Bachelor's gone wrong and where they could go right again. I don't know.
I think it's such a superficial world, the TV world, in that regard, that I think people would just spend the whole time. Like, I remember one episode, like, Tim and I just got out of the pool, so I had no makeup on, so you could see all my acne scars. Like, all of them were, like, on display, like, and I was just wigging out watching it, like, yuck. And I remember, I never had time to read stuff, but I remember so many people commenting on that, being like, look at that pock face or pock face bitch, and I'm like, well, it's not pox, number one, it's acne scars, so grow up. And yeah, and I just thought, well, imagine if I did that the whole episode. Like, the whole season just didn't really wear makeup. People would have just been like, oh, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, the guys wouldn't even like her. And that's so
it's an
mean.
awful world that we live in.
And it's not true, because that's just not true. But in that role, it kind of is.
Yeah, you've got to play. You're playing a role. You are playing a role, aren't you? Of perfection.
We've gone from talking about, but it still makes sense, aging to accepting yourself.
Because for every person that was so mean about your acne scars, there were 10 girls watching that with acne scars going, oh, my God, I love her so much. Oh, my gosh, she looks like me.
Yeah, you want to be that relatable gal.
You do, and that's why it's so incredibly important to have diversity on TV and to let people be themselves.
That's so true.
And be allowed to love yourself for exactly who you are, because you know what? It is a fucking hard world, and we hate ourselves way too much.
Yeah.
And it is not worth it. It is not worth the quality of life that you live spending it despising yourself. It's just not. So if you're that person and you're listening to us, please go and have a look at yourself in the mirror and just say thank you. Thank you for being who I am. And there is absolutely no one else like you. No one. You are unique and you are perfect just the way you are.